Shus harabanim b'shus kal hakadosh Merei v'Rabbi say. Ki meitzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim arenu neflois. The Geula HaSida, the future Geula which we are in the midst of preparing, will be like the Geula of Mitzrayim. How so? We find a very, very interesting pasuk after the whole dialogue between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Eibishter and God. Who am I? Why should I go? Who are you? There's a burning bush. All of a sudden, we find a pasuk. God convinces Moshe, and it says, "Vayoshev Moshe el Yeser Chesnei." Moshe went back to Yisro, his father-in-law, and he said, "Ashuva na'erda Mitzrayim, I will return. I will go down to Mitzrayim, lirei shleimecha, to see the welfare of my brothers. Ha'edam chayim, are they still alive?" And Yisro basically says, "Go gesundheit." The question is asked, Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you saying? You just heard from God himself that they're alive. You're coming to your father-in-law, you're saying, are they alive? I have to see if they're alive. You heard from God they're alive. They're in bondage, they're hurting, slavery, terrible situation, but they're alive. What is Moshe telling Yisro? I have to see Ha'edam Chaim, are they still alive? So you could say, joking, I was speaking to somebody, so he says to me, he would go and tell him, I'm going to take the Jews out of Egypt. Yisro would say, are you crazy? I was one of his advisors. He's going to chop your block off. He'll make your head shorter. I need a husband for my tzipodala. I don't need somebody. I need somebody to take care of him. But we can't say that about Moshe Rabbeinu. What is Moshe Rabbeinu saying? He's saying, after 210 years of bondage, Ha'edam Chayim, is there still anatem adveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem Chayim? Do they still believe? Is there something is there still belief in God? And we find, Taka, that Moshe Rabbeinu stands up in the next parsha and he says, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to bring you to the land of milk and honey. The Jews should have been jumping for joy. God promised Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, I'm taking you out of Golos. What's the reaction of the Jews? V'lo shamu al Moshe, they didn't listen to Moshe. Why? Mikotzer ruach u'me'avoda kasha. Rashi says, what is kotzer ruach? They were short of breath. So you could imagine 600,000 Jews standing in a field, an 80-year-old Rebbe standing there with a long white beard saying, I'm going to take you out, and they're all going, ha, 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 ha. 600,000 people breathing very heavy. How could anyone hear what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying? But that isn't what it says. It says, Mikotzer ruach, their mind was too short to understand spirituality. And this was the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu had to do to bring into the world, was that spirituality. And we find in the next parsha, Pari says, Mi v'mi aholchem, who is going? So Moshe says, B'nareinu b'zkeneinu, with our youth and our elders, B'baneinu b'bneiseinu, with our sons and daughters, Tzeneinu b'kareinu, with our cattle. Shouldn't the first thing be with our sons and daughters? Shouldn't that be the first thing? No, he says, B'nareinu b'zkeneinu is a lesson to us. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, when the youth, when our children, our grandchildren are holding the hands of their grandparents, are going in the same way that their forefathers went, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, then it's Chag Hashem Lanu. Then it is a festival for us. And until after Kriyas Yamsuf, that was when there was Vayaminu B'Hashem U'B'Moshe Avdei. After all of the Makkos and everything comes many years later, there's a communist revolution, there's a Bolsheviks. The Frierdiker Rebbe has to work day and night, be imprisoned, be thrown down steps, so that to instill emunah, to keep that flame alive. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said the hardest thing for him was that he sent somebody on a shlichus. He was taken away the next day, never to be seen again. And a day later, he sent someone to replace him. And comes the Holocaust. 6 million of our best and brightest. Auschwitz, Dachauberg, and Belsen, Mauthausen. Tzaddikei Olam, the righteous of the generations. Hevel tinoike shel beis rabim shel hayodel chet, little children who knew no sin. Taken to the crematoriums. Today, Ani Mammon, they went singing, I believe, the 13 principles of faith. And comes 1950, the Frierdiker Rebbe passes on and goes on high, and the Rebbe takes over the leadership. And the Rebbe says in the first mimer, this is the Dor Ashri, the 7th generation. This is the Dor that is going to bring the Shechina down Lamata, that is going to end Golus. Set out on a mission then in the first mimer, Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Aleph, that this is going to end Golus. And he went in to instill Emunah in Klal Yisrael. How many people threw away their tefillin after the Holocaust? How many people came to America, the gold in the Medina, and in the pursuit of the almighty dollar, gold in the streets, went to work on Shabbos and threw away all of the values that they had. And in this atmosphere, the Rebbe takes over the Nesias, takes over the leadership. And he says, we're going to end Golus. And what the Rebbe had to do was instill Emunah in Klal Yisrael. Instill Emunah and bring back that Emunah to Klal Yisrael. And what does he do? He starts sending out shluchim around the world, starts speaking, makes a Merkos shlichus, sends out Bochrim in 1947, already 46, to go out to the world to find that Jew. And comes Chof Ches Nissen, today's day, and the Rebbe says, I was standing right next to the Rebbe by that Sikha, and when the Rebbe started to speak about this, he started to shake. And he says, I did everything that I can. I'm giving it over to you. But then the Rebbe says, the last line, the Rebbe says, V'chi yiratzin, that should be 1, 2, 3 people that will sit down and are going to find an eitzah, what to do to bring Moshiach. And he said it has to be b'yofen hamiskabel, be acceptable. Eiris the toyo b'kelim the tikkun. Can't be wah, 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 wah. It has to be something practical. And he gave everyone a license. You find a way in which to do it. And a few years ago, it dawned on me, what is the Rebbe giving us? He says he did everything. What is the Rebbe giving to Klal Yisrael, the one thing that he couldn't do? The Shabbos afterwards, the Rebbe spoke about learning Pirkei Avos, which throughout the whole period of time, there was this same system. What is Pirkei Avos? Live a life, lifnei mishuras adin. Live a life of Geula. Hachanatzmei, prepare yourself. The next week he spoke about learning the Inyanim of Geula and Moshiach. Prepare the world for Moshiach. And this went through everything that the Rebbe said, had either a bent on preparing yourself or preparing the world. But what can we do that the Rebbe did not do? He could have done it, but he gave it over to us. And that is to reach each and every Jew in the world, that they should do a mitzvah. It should be a der shekulei zakai. It should be a generation that is fully righteous. There shouldn't be one Jew in the world that isn't doing a mitzvah. There is nobody that doesn't have somebody that he works with, 1 person, 5 people, 10 people, that you could go over in the morning and say with him, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which is a mitzvah of Achdus Hashem, Tefillah. You translate it, it becomes Limud HaTorah. Put a penny into the pushka, it's Avos Yisrael, it's Tzedakah. There isn't one person in the world. So we have the campaign, 1 mitzvah at a time. But if you take 10 people and you do these 5 mitzvahs with them, you have 50 mitzvahs. 50 mitzvahs, it's 1,000 mitzvahs a month, 12,000 mitzvahs a year. Within a year, if you have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 people doing it, there shouldn't be one Jew that shouldn't be doing a mitzvah. We have to end Golus. And the only way to do it is by reaching each and every Jew in the world. And this is what the Rebbe gave us. He says, I need foot soldiers. Not only shluchim, every Jew, jeder eine von euch, each and every one of you. Go out into the world, tell them Moshiach is ready to come. We just have to do the final things are also maybe also done. But it is up to us to bring home the Geula. There will be no Deir Shmini. There won't be an eighth generation. The Deir Shvi, which is us, will bring the Geula. The question is us waking up ourselves, waking up our friends. And it shouldn't become something that is stale, something that the Rebbe spoke about 30 years ago. The Rebbe, and with this all said, that the Barditchev said he won't go into Gan Eden until Moshiach comes. So what did they do? He was standing by the gate. They said Kedusha. He jumped 3 times, and he found himself in Gan Eden. The Rebbe said, what is the Eitzah? I'm going to make a neder al das Rabbim. I will make a vow that I'm not going into Gan Eden until Moshiach comes. Now you have to understand, I don't know what's going on up there, where the Rebbe is, but wherever he is, all the Rabbeim are. I'm sure all the Tzaddikei Olam from all the generations are there. Give the Rebbe a present, 120 million mitzvahs, 240 million mitzvahs, 360 million mitzvahs. Could tell the Eibusha, look, it's 30 years almost since Gimel Tammuz. Look what Klal Yisrael is doing. So many mitzvahs. It is up to each and every one of us to do this. And you should know that if we will do it and it'll become a Dershe Kulei Zakai, we definitely will be Zeicha to get and bring down Moshiach. But remember, it's something to be done today, not tomorrow. It can't wait. All of the things that are happening in the world show that it's a last throw. The Samach Mem is trying his best that Mashiach should not come. Pay a price for it. But the end result is we will win. Mashiach will come.